Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and welcome to this Level Up Advanced 5th Edition Tuesday. Today, we're going to do an overview of, equipment. We're going to go over the equipment section in Level Up 5th Edition, and um, let me give you a slight preamble. In 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there has been a complaint of sorts that when treasure is given out, especially gold and gems and valuables, that there isn't much to spend it on. And what is available to spend your uh, ill-gotten gains isn't there's not a lot of choices. For example, maybe if you're playing a martial class or warrior class, there one idea is, especially at the lower levels, or tier one, maybe even tier two, to upgrade weapons and armor and things of that nature. And there really just aren't that many choices. So, Level Up Fifth Edition has doubled down on basically a lot of choices. Now, for your narrators out there, what's called a essentially a replacement for a dungeon master in A5E, the there's also the idea of, when players have a lot of gold and valuables and things of that nature, to have something to spend it on means that there's a reason to continue adventuring, especially if your desire to continue adventuring is to gain wealth and fame and that kind of thing. Now that we have options for each for the players to spend their money to then go out adventuring to gain even more money. So we're going to take a look at the equipment list. I'm going to expand out here just a little bit, and just on this very first splash page, we do have here starting gold per class. So if you don't want to hand out the or use the base equipment and adventuring packs, you can also just give them the gold, and the players can go ahead and start to shop on their own. So yeah, we do have that. Now, as we move down, we do have the exchange rates. I was wrong that the Electrum piece is not included in here, but it is. It's an inside joke for those who haven't been listening to the channel, where I was making the analogy of Electrum pieces in the as as gold pieces in a John Wick style fantasy universe or something like that. Vince, what's going on? 10-foot poles. Got to get those 10-foot poles in there, man. They're Hey, listen, I remember the old days where, which I never understood, why we had 10-foot poles and then we had spears and staves, but whatever. Um, mhm, yeah, the Ant King says those players generally aren't interested in buying land or political positions, but I get their point. And buying land and political positions is at the end of the equipment list. So yes, you can actually absolutely establish I'm going to generalize a stronghold, but usually focused on what kind of character class you are. So if you're a wizard, you can build a tower. You're a cleric, you can build some kind of a religious establishment, that kind of thing. TA is like, I'm only 6 minutes late. Good, because you missed all my preamble, which is awesome. You get to skip past all the boring stuff. All right, so over here, let's see. Let's go through some basics here, and so of course we have value, currency, uh, the, the usuals, right? How much something is worth, and trade goods, treasure, art, magic items, things of that nature. So there are, of course, there's categories for simple weapons and martial weapons, rare weapons. Uh, Nothing much has changed there. If you understand uh, basic any basic D20 system, you're going to understand these. The weapons here have been divided into damage classifications. So when you look into the weapons list, you'll notice like over here on the left, there's like D4, and then there's a number of weapons, and then it goes into die 6 damage and a number of weapons, etc., etc. So here under in the very beginning, D4 damage, and then we have like brass knuckles, clubs, dagger, dueling daggers, light hammer, punch dagger. I think it's called a Katar. Sickles, throwing daggers, whips, things of that nature. We have, of cost, weight, if you decide to use weight, and properties. And there are a there's a lot more new properties for weapons, as well as the ability to modify weapons or have special weapons um, um, constructed for your player character. So when they go adventuring, they come back to their town. Maybe they're able to get certain weapons modified, or there's something unique, or even useful as a treasure of sorts for the narrator to create when the players go out adventuring. Maybe there are other cultures and distant lands where they use different types of weapons, or weapons that have different aspects to them to allow them to be cool. And this is not including magic items. So yes, we do have our list here. The damage type of melee weapons, ranged weapons, and we'll get into the weapon functionality in just a moment. And then we have miscellaneous weapons and exotic weapons like a garrote, uh, lance, net, spear thrower, also known as an addle, an ATL. And then we have our weapon properties, and we'll get into that. Let me see what you guys have to say. Uh, Vince says, I think the pole was mostly expendable in the trigger traps. I agree with that. That's exactly what the pole was. It wasn't supposed to be a weapon. It was basically like to poke floors and ceilings and things like that. Yeah, pole was mostly expendable into trigger traps. You would not want to use your spear for that, would you? Well, I'm sure many people with staves, and spears used it for that exact purpose, even when they didn't want to. Thomas Anderson says, with gold being the dollar, silver being the dime, and copper being the penny. Yeah, and platinum pieces being the $5 coin. Yep, and the electrum kind of sticking out there. Electrum with a K. $half. Well, I think we still have gold. I think we still have a gold dollar, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a long time. Okay, let me see. It might have to go to a. You know what? I'm going to go to a single page, and let's see. Let's go to single page here, and let me expand this out because we will need to see some of the statistics. We have some additional weapon properties in A5E, such as breaker and compounding, defensive, dual wielding, et cetera, hand mounted, things of that nature. And each of these different weapon properties, some simple weapons and martial weapons, have some of these properties. There are other properties that exist that are not listed in under any of the weapons, and those are options so that the narrator can add them into the game, give them to some NPCs, add them for distant cultures, and they are aspirational things as well. For example, under Breaker, this weapon deals double damage to unintended objects such as doors and walls. If this property only applies to a specific type of material, such as wood, it is stated in parentheses after this property. And essentially, Breaker is like if you have a wood cutting axe, then it is able to cut wood very, far more easily. And so therefore it does double damage to unattended objects and things. Of course, you could use that same axe chopping, wood chopping axe to maybe chop down a wooden door or something of that nature. There's compounding, such as you can only use your strength modifier for attack and damage rolls made with this weapon. There's defensive and so on and so forth. We're not going to go through all of these because it's pretty extensive. Excuse me. Dual wielding, of course, a weapon designed to be used where you have one a weapon in both hands. Finesse weapons, hand mounted weapons, such as this weapon is affixed to your hand. You can do simple activities such as climbing a ladder while wielding this weapon, and you have advantage of saving throws made to resist being disarmed. There are combat maneuvers uh, that use disarming as a tactic. Anyway, you cannot use a hand that is wielding a hand mounted weapon to do complex tasks like picking a pocket, using thieves' tools to bypass a lock, or casting spells with seen components. And that's just a limiting factor because if you want to play an Assassin's Creed type character, it exists. Actually, that device is in this game under the equipment, exotic equipment, I believe. Of course, we have things such as going in order. Heavy, it's a loading weapon. Maybe it's a mounted weapon. Mounted weapons meaning like the weapon is used when you are on a mount when you are mounted. Parrying weapons, and then of course over here on the right, it has a trip effect, or two-handed, versatile, or vicious, particularly vicious weapon. There's also parrying and parrying immunity. A parrying weapon. When you are wielding over here to the left, when you are wielding this weapon and you are not using a shield, once before your next turn, you gain an expertise die to your AC against a single melee attack made against you by a creature you can see, and you cannot use this property while incapacitated, paralyzed, rattled, restrained, or stunned, of course. And then parrying immunity. Some weapons ignore the parrying ability of other weapons. And then there's ranged weapons, reach, simple thrown weapons, etc. And then of course there's ammunition. Let's get in and see what you guys have to say. Let's see what you guys. Moved on a little bit. Wait. Okay, here we go. Vince says, honestly, in most games, you would need something like mithril coins because you can carry way too much gold around. Yeah, that's because most games, the vast majority of games ignore encumbrance because no one likes to do math. Hate the maths when you're trying to like slay dragons and things. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, jumping to a fantasy world and collecting a bunch of random coins and bringing them back. Yeah, you find 100 coins are worth more like $20,000. Yeah. Oh heck yeah! You wouldn't really have to go very far either. Serve a bunch of drinks to some adventurers after, and then they start throwing around gold coins, and you're like, "Damn, I am rich." Yeah, Vince is like, "Yeah, saving 80,000 gold in another world for my retirement." Hell yeah. Oh man. Hey, morning there, Rickard. Hey, what's going on? Wallet of holding. And the Ant King says hand mounted is sorely missed in 5e. We need ways to be predators and guys with chainsaws for hands. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, okay. So moving on to some ammunition here. We got some cool ammunition, explosive and flaming, and punching or punching. What would you call that? Armor piercing, maybe things of that nature. Of course, we have our costs and weight, and then we have a few um, examples here, such as arrows and blowgun needles, crossbow bolts, explosive arrows, firearm bullets, punching arrows, sling bullets, things like that. And we have a handful of cultural weapons to try to move ourselves out of the pseudo medieval, if you want to call it. Fantasy really isn't medieval, but anyway, to get away from that, we have things like um, boomerangs, butterfly swords, denjatus, nunchaku, shuriken, sling staffs, spike gauntlets. Some of these are pulled from us. I'm, I was about to use the word classic, but notable items from other fantasy genres as well. Nice section staffs, claymore, Scottish claymore, the Chinese dowel, gnomish hooked hammer, the halfling sling staff, things like that. And then even something here, which is just an example of a modified weapon. It's kind of over my head here, but an elven thin blade, 50 gold. This weapon uses the statistics of a rapier, but it's so sharp that it has the vicious property. And it's just an example of using the weapon properties to kind of make and modify your own weapons. Shields. Shields have a unique property in A5E. Shields and helmets. So yeah. Rare melee weapons, rare ranged weapons. There's the Assassin's Gauntlet or Boot Dagger. There you go. There's the Assassin's Creed weapon. There's the double weapon. The the spear with a spike on both ends, or the sword with a blade at both ends and a handle in the middle, that kind of thing. Ratchet and crossbow, Imperial Maul, ring blade. There's a firearm. And then, of course, we have our rare weapons and their damage capabilities. Here, again, they're listed by damage first, and then the weapon underneath it. That way, if you again, if your players are traveling through distant regions, some weapons may not be available at all, or they may come across new items that exist in your world. So, rare ranged weapons, and again, here we have damage types like pistols and shotguns, carbines, ratchet and crossbows, revolvers, things of that nature. If you want to use firearms, I know some people. It's a love hate thing with firearms and fantasy, but whatever. But the reason that they exist here is because they do have. Um, there is a special setting that was created by through designers at N World called Zeitgeist, and it is a black powder fantasy realm. So the rules are exist in here, but to facilitate that, and we'll get into shields. Let's see what you guys have to say. Vince says, "Isn't the expertise die exclusive to the fighter?" No. Every character class has access to the expertise die, and it operates under a dice chain. So if you gain expertise in something, it begins at D4, and if you get multiple methods to gain expertise within a specific knowledge or situation, they stack. So it's D4. It goes up the chain: D4, D6, D8, D10. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Hmm. T says, I'm wondering how many people had kingdoms in the world they create to make their ownership of gold and silver illegal, requiring people to turn it in for the king's pot metal coins or some such. Um, I guess, although I think people would probably find you could only become so draconian until people find other methods of economies, like economies in prisons don't necessarily revolve in just cash, right? People will come up with new ways. There will always be an economy, no matter how much people try to shut down one another. Boxing club is, yeah, the punch out. That's what I was thinking in my head. The old comic book classic boxing glove on the end of the arrow. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Vince says, "Are there fantasy settings with paper money?" I don't know. No. Ricker says, "No meteor hammer." I'm with you on that. I think a meteor hammer, or basically a very heavy object like a stone or a piece of metal. I mean, literally, you could just take rope and wrap around a stone and make your own meteor hammer. It may not be very. The quality might not be up there, but that seems to be a pretty common weapon throughout history. Vince says, "Do these weapons have properties?" Oh, they all do. Yeah, it does. That was a picture of a blunderbuss. Vince says, "I wish you would use the properties introduced earlier more often." Yeah, it's not often. Mm-mm. Okay, Boom, 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 boom. Let's go through some of these other. I wish I could pop the chat out. Arr. Okay, so in A5E there are more shields, and shields you're able to do a shield sacrifice. So mm, 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 mm. Shields range from buckler to tower shields. When it is used as an attack, a shield is treated as an improvised weapon that deals 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Donning a shield grants no benefit to armor class if you are not proficient with shields, and you are unable to take cover behind it, plant it on the ground, or sacrifice it. So if you don't have skill with the shield, you can't use it that way. Um, let's see, costs of table. I'm trying to look where the light shields increase your armor class by 1. You may throw the shield, treating it as an improvised weapon that deals 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Medium shields are classic. They add 2 to your armor class. Let me go back up here a little bit. And then you have heavy shields. Increase your armor class by 2 and gain an expertise die on dexterity saving throws. The idea, of course, stepping behind your shield protects you from, say, blasts of fire or something like that. Fireball. When you take the dodge action while wielding a heavy shield, you may instead take cover behind your shield, gaining an expertise die to your armor class until the start of your turn. You have a disadvantage on dexterity acrobatics and dexterity stealth checks while wielding a heavy shield, and you cannot squeeze through spaces smaller than your size category, unless you drop it. And then there's tower shields. They're bulky items. And then there's improvised shields. Mm-mm. Um, an improvised shield is destroyed when you take a critical hit. It cannot be sacrificed. It can um, it cannot be repaired or customized, and it becomes useless after 10 rounds of combat. And that's just a limiting factor. The idea: flip a table over, duck behind it, and then we have ourselves shield sacrifice. When you take a critical hit, you can use your reaction to block it and sacrifice your shield, turning the critical hit into a regular hit. Afterwards, your shield is broken, or if your shield is magical, it instead becomes mundane for 1 hour. And broken is a condition that is repairable using certain skills and things. And then we have armor and helms. Helms is brand new, of course, for A5E. Let me move up here just a little bit. So we're going to regular helm and a visored helm. The regular helm, this hard leather or metal covering protects the head, but not, come on, but not the face. With the exception of a strip over the nose. While wearing this helm, you gain an expertise die on saving throws made to resist being stunned or rattled, and your passive perception score is reduced by 2. With a visored helm, bam! With a visored helm, oh, it's over my head. This helm covers the entirety of the head, including the face. The visor may be moved out of the way of the face as an object interaction, in which case the visored helm functions as a standard helm. While wearing a visored helm, you gain an expertise die on saving throws made to resist being charmed, stunned, or rattled, and your perception score is reduced by 5. Additionally, whenever you take damage from falling, you reduce that damage by 5. So, kind of a cool idea to have a helmet, but it blocks your vision a little bit. And then we'll get into the armor types, and also there's armor materials and that sort of thing. See what you guys have to say. Yeah, the NK. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's like you could get real grim with improvised shield. Imagine picking up a dead knight and using their armor to protect from arrows shot at you. Of course, hell's yes. It's my that I. I'm gonna use a dead body. This what? Yeah, yeah. Mike says, "Morning all." Meteor hammer. Yep. Flail plus reach. Yep. And Mike says, "Paper money." I didn't know that. Yeah, paper money exists in Colville's city of capital. Lastly, my Polish hobgoblins use coins made of jade that have a square hole in the middle. I think there was, weren't there Far East cultures that you carry coins on strings with the hole in the middle or something? Let's see. Vince says they handle shields very interestingly in Pathfinder 2e. You can raise a shield as an action. Yep, you get three actions in Pathfinder 2e, and then you can use a reaction to let the shield absorb damage, which then takes damage, and each shield has hit points. I like the I'm surprised it took this long to have like the three action economy. Although I don't like the idea of continually adding in more actions because I think it slows the game down. I think the actions should be split up a little bit. TA says, I would think a king planning to fund a war might do everything they can to wring out all of the gold in his kingdom to fill that war chest before jumping up and starting that war. Uh, that's done plenty of times, and has it doesn't always work as intended. When you the war that you intend that's maybe supposed to expand or help your kingdom is the good that you get from dominating others is the bad that happens when you dominate the people that you have yourself. So we've seen that happen plenty of times in society, even till today. Yeah. Yeah, if you're strong enough, a guy in armor becomes a weapon and shield. Yeah, hells yes. Vince says a string of cash coins refers to a historical Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Ryukyuan, and Vietnamese. The square hole in the middle of cash coins served to allow for them to be strung together in strings. I thought so. I was like, was that a fantasy element? I don't know why I remember hearing and seeing that. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so let's get into the armor section, and mind you, just remember that a lot of these things are stacked together. So you have weapons, you have weapon properties, so you can kind of commingle them. Then you have armor, and then you have armor properties, and commingle them and things. So the game was designed to be broad, not tall. So it's not like it's power creeping. It's more like it's very basically more options. So we have a lot more armor types. Light armor with padded cloth and padded leather. Oh, I'm sorry. Got to do this going from left to right. We have armor type, the cost, the weight of it, the armor class and how it's calculated, the material properties. Some of these have properties that we will see listed. For example, padded armor is comfortable. It has the flaw of piercing, and it is under armor. And then padded leather is comfortable and has a flaw of piercing. And you'll see what with the flaws mean for piercing. There's strength requirement, dexterity, stealth penalty, and then at the last, repairability, giving you the DC to repair it, and then what kit is needed to repair the armor if it is damaged or broken. And so as we go on, we have medium armor. I'm trying to look for something that's brigantine, leather brigantine, comfortable. For example, hide armor is comfortable and wild, and then it only is DC 10 for a sewing kit to fix it. Whereas just below that is a chain shirt made of steel. It is low maintenance, and under low maintenance is expertise die. That means that to maintain it, you get an additional expertise die. But to fix it, it's a DC 15, and you need smith's tools and access to a forge, and so on. And so each of the types of armor has their own advantages and disadvantages. Breastplates and bone, steel, mithril, half plate, etc. And then at the bottom, of course, there's strength requirements. Um, there's some material modifiers already included in some of these, especially for like mithril and steel. And we go on with the ever increasing armor types. And we have our helms, 4 pound and 8 pound helms. Donning, doffing, sizing, and sleeping in armor. And there's little details here and there. Like if the armor is not appropriately sized to you, DC Constitution saving throw at the end of each day. Um, it is assumed that cloth armor is worn under breastplates and suits of mail. So some armor you can kind of wear under others. And then we get into fine and masterwork items. A fine item always costs at least full price plus 50%. Masterwork items cost at least a full price plus either 100% or 125 gold, whichever is greater. And then we get into some of the customizing armaments. Many weapons, many weapons, pieces of armor have slight differences across cultures and are referred to with different names. If you wish to use a weapon that is functionally similar to one on this table, work with the narrator to determine how it changes visually. You may also use a combination of the weapon or armor properties and additional properties listed here to create functionally distinct gear. As a general rule, weapons should have no more than three properties unless one of those properties is a restriction. Shields and armor should have no more than two properties. And that's just a limiting factor so people don't get out of hand. And then we start going into some of the weapon properties. All right, here we go. Let's get back into the chat. I know. Mm, mm, mm. Let's see, Rickard says, I wonder if you could do a three action game where everyone take one action before everyone gets to take their second action and such, and only when the last person takes their third action does the turn end. That's, well, in short, that's kind of how I would do it, although I would be a little bit more cheeky with it. But yes, I would just have everybody roll, I would have everybody roll 3d6, and whoever goes on the first second starts at number one, and then the last 6 second goes on number six, and then just do everything simultaneous. And then you have to choose. Let's say you roll a one, a three, and a four, and you can perform one action on any of those seconds in a 6 second round. Then you have to choose: do I move on second number one and then attack on three and four? Do I attack on number one, move on number three, and then attack again on number four? Like, I would do that. I would do it that way. And then if somebody's faster than somebody else, you just get to re-roll. If you roll like a five or six and someone's like, can I re-roll those or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, I would round. You could also round table it as well. And I do monsters that way personally. Like if a monster has like three, four, five attacks, I bounce back and forth between the players and how I do it. I mean, and I let people know that up front. Armored goblin plus one. This armored corpse was enchanted was enchanted by a wild mage magic surge and can act as a shield or mace. Proficiency in martial weapons, shields, and improvised weapons required. Why are you hauling around a dead body? Oh, it's not any normal dead body. What's the movie? Oh, Weekend at Bernie's. An old classic, yeah, Weekend at Bernie's. Let's see what the flamboyant says here. Okay, so we have our traits here that can be added and modified for weapons and things. Flamboyant. Creatures have disadvantage on saving throws made to resist being distracted by this weapon, and you have advantage on the intimidation or performance checks made with the use of it. So, like a flamboyant weapon would be like one that's got like spikes on it. Maybe you could describe it any kind of way. Maybe as a narrator, you decide that only someone who's extremely proficient in the weapon can get the flamboyancy out of the weapon. Maybe something like that. But anyway, so we've got like camouflage, flamboyant, quick draw, rebounding. At a little ridiculous, but I like it. When you make a ranged attack with this weapon or shield, you may make the attack with disadvantage. If you hit, the weapon returns to your hand. Piercing weapons cannot have this trait. Then there's like spiked, stealthy, storage weapon. This piece contains a hidden compartment the size of a small vial, etc., etc. All right, so now we get into materials, and the above items, you know, narrator adjudicated, can be modified with these materials, and the materials then affect some of its mechanical features. So we have like right at the very top, we have adamantine and bone, two materials that are complete opposites of each other. Gives you a little bit of fluff on the left. We have weight. So adamantine adds one and it multiplies the weight by 1.5. Bone reduces it by half. The cost for adamantine is times four. On the list above, bone is only a 1/4. And then the properties for adamantine are hardy and low maintenance. So you gain advantage for checks to maintain it. And it's weighty. So it's +2. And repairability, DC 25 to repair it. You need Smith's tools and access to a forge. But under bone, it has a flaw and it's lightweight. And then repairability is only DC 10 and you need a sewing kit. And weapons are not repairable if they're bone weapons. So of course the above weapons, if depending on where the player your characters go adventuring, they find a spear, maybe one of them finds a bone spear as an example, or adamantine shield or something like that. And then we go into other materials like bronze, cloth, um, cold iron, hide, and it goes on to the second page of regular iron, leather, mithril, silver, steel, stone, wood, so on and so forth. And then you can customize shields, hands-free shield, mirrored, spikes, and then there's I'm sorry, and then there's also details on weapons that are damaged. And there's some examples of when a narrator may call for a maintenance check. The third pillar of exploration is fully formed in A5E. So maintenance, um, maintenance checks on armor and weapons, needing to keep track of your supply, and finding a safe haven to sleep in are part of the game. So far more than other games. Maintenance talks about broken weapons and material properties, comfortable Fey-Bane weapons, flaw. Uh, a weapon a weapon with the flaw property breaks when you roll a natural one. Armor breaks when you take a critical hit or roll a natural one on a dexterity saving throw. If a damage type is noted in parentheses, the armor only breaks on a critical hit from that damage type, or the weapon only breaks if it does damage for that damage type. So, yep, 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 yep. We'll get to end of this, and then we'll get to medicinals. And that's it. Fortified, hardy, high quality, lightweight, low maintenance, rust, silvered, and then there's Under Armour, weighty, and wild. While wearing hide armor, you cannot gain expertise die on deception and persuasion checks made in urban environments. All right, let's get back to see what you guys have to say. The End King says, "Wow, rebounding can be given to shields specifically. You guys know what films have likely influenced new players. I like it. Yeah, come on, C- come on. Yeah, my character's name is Reeve Stodgers, and I am a captain. I mean, I'm a lieutenant, right? Yeah." Thomas Andrews says, "Kind of wondering too if they handle those instances where your weapon strikes the shield of an opponent and gets stuck in the shield. I would adjudicate that when someone does a like rolls a one, like a crit fail, and something like that. Like uh, weapon drops, weapon breaks, weapon gets stuck into monster, weapon gets stuck into shield or into dead body. Like I personally would adjudicate it that way." Um, but I do like the idea of that, right? Like someone takes a big battle axe and it slams into someone's shield. Also, I think I would probably adjudicate that if someone not just the extremes like a 1 or a 20, but like the exact number. You need a 13 or higher, you roll a 13, and it's like, well, your axe slams into their shield, takes their shield off, but now you're both their shield and your axe are stuck together. Like, what do you do, right? Because it might be like both a benefit and a penalty. So I think I would do something like that. As to although maybe making a couple of tables might be kind of cool. TA says, "I know they used to have issue with rust monsters, even if it did not get treated as a destroyed weapon by the rust monster." Yeah, yeah. Rust monsters are like a side effect of Gaxian style monsters. So For those of us of a certain age, we remember the old OSR. Anyway, in the OSR, there are a lot of monsters that were created specifically to challenge players when they were dungeon delving. So rust monsters, gelatinous cubes, mimics. Uh, uh, oh, what are they called? Oh, the parasites that got into dead bodies. Um, there was an earwig that used to hang out um, in in the keyholes of doors. There's a bunch of other little things. They're all Gaxian creatures. Basically, like it was to make player characters careful about doing player character stuff far too easily, and we don't have too much of that. Yeah, Vince is a yeah. Rust Monster's more like you don't get to have cool shit monster. Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yep. Yeah. It was. I mean, they were all designed that way, right? Like listening at doors was a thing. It was a capability players had, and then an earwig monster was there that might jump into a PC's ear. Rot grubs. That's what called rot grubs were hung. Would eat inside of dead bodies. PCs would loot dead bodies. PC could get rot grubs. So it was a limiting factor. It was a little bit gaming gamified, but yeah. Yep, rot grubs. Thank you there, Mike. Yep, rot grubs. Mm. Yeah, and Yankee says, I remember there was some transdimensional monster that lived in dungeons and specifically ate gold and treasure. What a silly game sometimes. Oh yeah, there were. I mean, I think there was a golem that was made up of treasure itself, and if you hit it with magic items, the magic item would get stuck to it and make it stronger. Um, there was all those gamifiable Gaxian style creatures, and I don't know what we could have today that would be that kind of thing, but whatever. Okay, so we do have adventuring gear. Um, uh, we have medicinals, so not just poison and healing potions, but we have other medicinals, and each of those medicinals has different effects, meaning like to alleviate fatigue, which has replaced exhaustion in the game, things like that. So there's a number of that. Laudanum, jar of leeches. I like that. Jar of leeches. This jar contains bloodthirsty medicinal worms useful for curing many maladies. I don't know about that. You can expend one use of this jar during a short rest to administer leeches to yourself or a willing creature. A creature who has leeches administered to them cannot regain hit points during the short rest due to blood loss, but it may repeat a saving throw to remove the poison condition or a blood-borne disease. DC equal to the original effect. I kind of like that. I like the idea of like, are we going to put the leeches on our PC? And, and the character's like, no. Well, you did get some of those. Hey, I was going to make a dirty joke, but I'm not going to do that. Yep, press spider bulb, sycamore petal poultice, spellcasting foci, and divine focus types of things, and how much it costs. Got to have all that. People love their poisons. Got to get their poison. Survival gear. There's plenty of additional elements for survival gear, and what I mean by that is not just items, but items brought together so that you don't have to pick through them one at a time. Let's go down here. This is very important in A5E rations and supply. Basic rations include food and water, typically costing 5 silver for one supply. At the narrator's discretion, food and water may cost more or less than this, especially if an adventurer is choosing to purchase finer foodstuffs or in a locale where resources are scarce. Uh, Supply is very important for recovery because if you don't consume supply, it is difficult for you to recover like your spell slots and your hit points. Um, of course, we got maps and tents and all that kind of stuff, cool stuff. Bulky items and carrying things. Of course, you have containers and miscellaneous adventuring gear. Uh, I love the fact that they threw in some ball bearings in here. That's old school there. Ball bearings, powder, 10-foot poles. don't really use that anymore because the threats that you needed I'm sorry, the threats where you needed a 10-foot pole and ball bearings and powder and a chicken and those kind of things aren't really used any longer. But I don't know why. They were kind of I don't know. I, I miss it. I miss it. I guess I'm a bit of an OSR grognard a bit, but fire, clothes, things to spend money on, basically. Um, Signet ring for 5 gold pieces, a shovel for two, sealing wax for 5 silver pieces, all that kind of stuff. For those who are into that, keeping track of those kind of things. And let's see if I can get down to the oh, we've got things like manticles, manticles, sheesh, manacles for restraining people, prosthetics for those that are injured. Of course, you got to have rope, smoke bombs, spy glasses. But Tanglefoot's, if I'm not remember, I think the first time I saw Tanglefoot was in three or 3.5 Tanglefoot bags. Can't remember. There we go. All right, all right. Wheelchair. I don't know why people got upset about that. The combat wheelchair it makes no sense. Here we go. Equipment packs. Um, Equipment packs are uh, have been the value of the equipment in the equipment packs has already been done for you. So you can just pick an equipment pack, and the equipment pack may have a backpack, but other items with it. So, like the Assassin's pack is 175 gold pieces. It includes a chest, a vial of advanced poison, 3 vials of basic poison, a set of fine clothes, a bottle of ink, an ink pen, a lantern, 2 flasks of oil, 5 sheets of paper, a vial of perfume, a costume, and a flash bomb. So the packs are made like it could. It's more than just a backpack, something like that. Eliminations pack, the diplomats pack, dungeoneers pack, the entertainers pack, the explorers pack, etc. And then there's like masterwork tools, scholars pack, priest, pirate. Mm-mm-mm. And some, of course, are more expensive than others. The definitely the assassin's pack is worth more. Costs a whole lot more than anybody else's. But if you can afford it, yeah. The Enking says wheelchairs exist. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know why people. I don't know if you guys remember the moment of time when a young person created a combat wheelchair and people were all upset. And I'm going, A, you don't have to have it, and B, people have all kinds of disabilities in fantasy. Why wouldn't that be a thing? The End King, yeah, jar of the barbers. People forget about that. The barbers, um, jar of leeches. I hope clerics have a barber subclass. Yeah, barbers were like meat cutters, basically. Yeah. Mm-mm. Yeah, you are absolutely correct there. Vince's modern leech therapy is used in areas such as microsurgery, plastic and reconstructive surgery, and cardiovascular disease and dermatology. Yep. To create blood flow in flesh, I believe it's used for. Leeches are worm-like organisms which are applied to the wound area where their blood-sucking action is used to increase circulation. Yes, improve blood flow and speed healing. Thank you. I should have read. Maybe I should have put your comment up first. Ooh, would be kind of neat to have a magic item that eats other magic items and takes its properties. Kind of nasty. Maybe something cursed, or maybe a PC has it and everyone's like, "Don't put your item next to mine." Mike says, I have a homebrew moth that travels in swarms to eat enchantments, be they on items or people. Ooh, have a mage armor? Nope, gone. Have a +1 sword? It's +0 tomorrow morning. Yep. Mm-mm-mm. Your sword ate my flail. No, but I got a bludgeoning sword now. It's funny. Oh, no. Mm-mm-mm. Vince says, not sure if I would love or hate the idea of a PC in a wheelchair in a fantasy setting. I don't honestly, I don't think it really matters. And follow me on this. There are so many other things that we accept as a truism, even though it's ridiculous. I don't think, for me, a wheelchair doesn't break. Um, it doesn't break immersion in the way that I think people imagine them to. Um, and also, it depends on what kind of game you're running. Like everyone assumes, oh, wheelchairs, steps, right? But how how many dungeons do people throw steps in? You don't have to. You know, you be extremely urban or political or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It's not like automatically. Oh, you're a wheelchair. We all have to get on ships or something. Yeah, Mike says neckbeards don't have a problem with Professor X or Metron. Yeah, but give a PC a chair and neckbeards lose their shit. Yes, exactly. That's my point. And let me get on my soapbox here. There's nothing more important than the players in my game. And if my player in real life is in a wheelchair and they want to play in a wheelchair, all no other thing matters. All that shit doesn't matter. They get to play. If they're value added in my life, they're in my game. Yep. 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 And King says in an OSR type setting, a PC in a wheelchair can send hirelings upstairs. Yeah. I don't think. Okay. Okay. We're you're gonna don't make me do this. I don't think you've ever seen wheelchair athletics. People act like people in wheelchairs are like these. I can't get around. um, yeah, right. The wheels would be designed to enable covering more rough ground and terrain. We don't have problems with what's it called? Our artificers having like mechanical constructs walking around with them. And who says they have to have wheels? Yeah, I'm not talking about floating. I'm just saying they don't have to have wheels. Yeah, Mike says historical example of a hero who couldn't walk. Ivar the Boneless, who invaded England in 1066, 2 days before William the Bastard. Yes, the bastard. He earned the conqueror only. Yep. Yeah, I don't understand why we have to defend this. Yeah, I don't. Yep. Yeah, like Vince says, Blades in the Dark. I love Blades in the Dark. Anyway, yeah, made a Blades in the Dark character, which was an old lady which only stayed at home. She helped the group through indirect actions, planning, and hired goons. Yeah, and so yeah, I don't understand why. In our world with smooth roads and sidewalks and such, of course, the wheelchairs are made for the smooth surfaces we have because manufacturers would cut any corner they can today. Yeah, exactly. Don't make me call up some videos of wheelchair athletes doing backflips and jumping across like 30-foot chasms and all that kind of stuff. And yes, people in wheelchairs can lift themselves back up. So yeah, I don't understand. And here's the thing. Why do people care about other people's? Yeah. Yep. I hear you. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, sorry, the stream's become a wheelchair stream. Yep, 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 yep. All right, so here we go. Let's get back into it because we're almost at the end here. Well, kind of at the end. All right, so we got tools, many tools, tools for trade, and then um, I'm going to switch to a two pager because there's even more things you could spend money on, which is we have a bunch of other tools, lots and lots of other tools here on the left. Alchemist, brewer, calligraphy, carpenter tools, jeweler's tools, glass blower. I love glass blower. Um, Painters, potters, all that kind of stuff. Lots of musical items, forgers kits, uh, and they go into detail down here on the left. Disguise, forgery, herbalism, navigators, poisoners kits, the sewing kit used for the armor up from above, smith's tools, thieves tools, etc. Tells you what in them, what items are in them. Of course, mounts and mounted gear. We even have mount traits. So if you want to add some personality to a random mount that someone finds along the way, you could do that. We have vehicles. No one talks about mounts down in dungeons, but you complain about wheelchairs. Yes, I went back there. Okay. sorry, vehicles, land vehicles, water vehicles. There are rules for piloting and driving vehicles in this game. Um, certain and there's special features you can give to various vehicles, like movement, integrity, steering, cargo, different types of malfunctions and things, lifestyle expenses. And we're going to get to downtime or shopping sequence. And there's a little breakout box here about like, do you really want to do a whole game about that? Or maybe that's something everyone enjoys. NPCs and hiring NPCs and some of the spells that they are able to cast if you want to go to a spell caster. Um, and then there are like donations, r- renting a demi plane. Kind of cool. Pets and eggs, starting wealth past first level. So if you want to play a tier 3 bard, here is a like a grab bag of like, oh, my character is, let's see, tier 3 would be like a 12th level, right? And you can grab this up real quick for your player characters to say, here's what you have. Here's some gold. Here's some magic items, and keep on moving. This is for all the character classes. Building a stronghold, so you can spend some money on that. Stronghold types. Of course, of course, building one, you have to have the what size it is, and repairs, and construction, and all that kind of stuff. So, stronghold sizes talks about things like a goblin cave lair or city bullhole, all the way to a forest queen sanctuary, depending on what grade it has. Features unusual strongholds and combining them together, and then there are some pre-made strongholds here: castles, encampment, a farm, a guild house, laboratory, library, menagerie, a sacred grove, a tavern, temples, workshops, things like that. Elven nobles refuge, floating wonder isles, dwarven gold foundries, city hole. This was like butthole. This is a bolt hole. Halfling Shire home. Some classics in here, and then followers and individuals you can hire, like an apothecary, a bodyguard, diviner or diviner, a footpad, maybe a porter or a healer, teamsters, and some personality quirks for them. Mm-mm-mm. Actually, I think, especially here for personalities and backgrounds and things like that, great table to just make up from some random NPCs and give them some love, right? Like maybe they are what's the number 4? They are sarcastic, prone to wisecracks and mocking criticisms. And then under if I move up here, a quirk like loves gazing at the stars or doodles with charcoal and spare parchment. And then maybe a little background motivation. What's number 4? Loves gold and sees adventuring as a quick way to make money. Or number 7 is a massive fan of yours. A little bit of a. Then there's optional rules for multi-classing and feats. So we got to the end here. So, all right. Let me get a little piece of artwork here and get back into the chat. Talk to you guys, and then we're going to get out of here. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, Mike Drider chair, abdomen and legs of a spider. Rider straps in. Yeah, we don't think about straps, right? Straps in the front grants land movement and spider climbing. You're welcome. Exactly. Able to carry a little, maybe a little bit more equipment or something on the back end of it or something. The End King says, "This is the stuff I really want to explore in an RPG: creating a knight's order, building a community around a wizard's tower, etc." Yeah. TA says, "Yeah, that was what I thought of when they said something about spider chair, but someone complained about steampunk and I was seeing a mechanical iron spider. That's what I was thinking, like Wild Wild West. Yeah, the little mechanical spider. Mm, mm, mm. Put down those eggs. Yeah, you have 20 seconds to comply. Talking about Ed 209. Mm-mm-mm. Spelljammers. I don't know. I don't know. All right, guys. Lastly, I will say that that how do I say this? Much like Blades in the Dark was brought up, I think you really have to talk to your players if they want to get involved with things like building strongholds and such. The reason for having strongholds in the first place in the OSR was a place to put all your followers and actually have replacement characters. Some characters were, your wizard, wanting to have a conversation with a sage might take 5 weeks. Okay, well, what does your character do in those 5 weeks when the other characters are out venturing? You pick up a replacement character and you adventure with them. And some of those retainers, henchmen, hirelings actually graduate up to first level, second level, fifth level characters that you use elsewhere. And that's what that came about. Yep, yep. It might say, okay, now I'm making a Drow Battlesmith Artificer. Drider chair inbound. Yep. Ben says, I personally would love having more extensive stronghold rules, which are more gamified. Yeah, especially being able to can you bring things back to them? Can you during downtime, does your stronghold grant you certain capabilities you take with you when you go adventuring? Maybe like in A5E, you could gain some sort of uh, expertise in a certain realm, or maybe in diplomacy with dealing with a neighboring community, or gathering yourself together for a long trip, or I don't know. But yes, maybe even having like combat rules for your stronghold. Like, I don't know, you could have hit points for walls, and morale checks for your population of your army and your people or something. I don't know. I know it already exists, but I just can't think of it. Mike says, "Work beckons. Good day, all." Head straps into drider chair. Tick, 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 tick. Yeah, I just imagine little, yeah, the little feet going. Hey, have a great one. It's like, yeah, you could get an alchemy lab that could create a certain amount of potions for adventuring. Yep, absolutely. Hey, everybody, by the way, everybody, have a great day. I know I'm going for about an hour here. Everyone's got to head out as well. I can't take much more than an hour. Your time is valuable. So, guys, have a great day. Everybody, take it easy. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to get back into Chat GPT. We're going to start doing things with voices in Chat GPT and see how it's modified. I mean, like I said, every single day that passes becomes old news with this kind of stuff, and we can make our decisions whether we like to use it, don't like to use it, want to burn it, want to embrace it and make it our new overlords, and everything in between. So, guys, have a great one. Take care, and I will see thee later. Peace.